Hey now, greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Burn It Down with Kim Brown. This is the safe space where we set oppression ablaze because we arsonists. Apparently, we like to burn shit down. Ooh, we're not the only ones that like to burn shit down, too. But burning shit down is related to one of my many cops ain't shit stories I have on deck for you today. But before we get into that, let me just say what's up to all the good folks. Hold on. What's going on in my chat situation? I don't see no chat. Let me scroll up here. Uh-oh. Well, we'll get to it. Listen, Friday's show. Friday's show. I didn't think there was too many people in the chat there either until I looked and I said, "Oh, listen. So because this is a small channel, right? We're accustomed to a certain level of engagement. Dare I say disengagement, right? So, it's going to be between 40, 80, 90. 90 is a good night for us. Friday night, when I looked at the chat and it said 150 something, I said, we have been discovered by the wrong folks. I said, usually when that happens, we have been discovered by the wrong peoples. And I still haven't looked at that chat, to be perfectly honest with you guys. I have to be in a very specific frame of mind to want to properly consume the foolishness, not my foolishness, of course, not your foolishness, of course, but when the right wing finds this, they usually bring a bunch of bullshit, and nobody. I won't say nobody wants it because I kind of do want it with them niggas. You know what I'm saying? But some days I just don't feel like hearing the white supremacist rhetoric. I'm sure you guys can understand. Okay, here we go in the chat. So shout out to everyone that's checking in. Hey, Anna Hart, big up to Anna and Mama Lorraine and everyone who hung out with us yesterday for marches around the fire disability support chat, something that we've been doing here on the platform almost a year. And if you have participated in previous around the fire disability support chats, we do have an announcement to make about that. The chats are going to be moved. Anna, break it all down for them in the chat, baby girl. But we're going to move the support chats from Mondays to Saturdays. So if you're interested in participating and getting the link and all of that, please make sure you make contact with the hearts. Anna and Mama Lorraine, that'd be awesome if you did that. So thank you so much to everybody. Thank you so much to Abby. Thank you so much to Kofi. And who else showed up? A lot of people showed up, but specifically, let me give a big shout out here. Let me take a moment to acknowledge our awesome mods. Let me shout out to Courtney. Courtney, you are amazeballs. Balls. You and Simba. I know sometimes there's a lot of overwhelming things going on, but I want to say you handle everything with such amazing, like way more class and grace than I could ever. Like Courtney, I could never be as classy and graceful and as beautiful spirited as Courtney. So big up, y'all. Just send Courtney some heart emojis, please. And big up to Latif as well. To my mods, Latif, Chuck Diesel, Latif, you as well. I know you a father of 10. No, Latif don't have 10 kids. Latif do got a rack of kids out here though, but he's a good, present, supportive, protective father, and he shows up to mod for the channel. A king. A whole king. So please, big up to my mods, big up to Courtney, big up to Latif, and big up to Chuck Diesel. Chuck Diesel, I don't know your situation as well, so I can't speak on what the fuck you got going on, but I can speak to my people though. So yeah. Send love to the mods. Mod love always. So guys, as you all see from the headline, today is a cops ain't shit day. And truthfully, we could run cops ain't shit stories every day, 24 hours a day for what you think, 2, 3, 400 years, maybe at least. I think that's reasonable. But so we have to condense it down just a bit. And a couple of these stories, again, were Fire Fam suggestions. So thank you all so much for doing what you do. Because like I said, I think I have temporarily reached a saturation point for the amount of news that I can consume. I'm okay. I'll tell y'all this real quick, and then I'm gonna get into the joint. So anyway, so I was watching The Simpsons, right? Shout out to The Simpsons, a fucking institution, a multi generational institution that has done social commentary in a way that few cartoons have been able to do. So I can't even begin to tell you what year, era of The Simpsons this particular episode was, but it was an episode about Lisa Simpson. Lisa Simpson was despondent about the state of the climate, the looming climate change, the inaction by those in charge to do anything about it. So, of course, Lisa Simpson, being unable to cope with the madness and the dystopia that she as a child is being exposed to, no, Lisa's been sent to therapy and they put Lisa on medication. And the name of the medicine they put Lisa on was called Ignore It All. That's what everybody takes. Everybody takes Ignore It All. You don't have to worry about the planet dying and, multi ecosystems collapsing and capitalism trying to smush us all down. No, no, no. Ignore it all. Just take some couple doses of Ignore It All and you shall be like the rest of us. Yeah. Anyway, I just had to share that. So anyway, right, Quaker anarchist. Right, what's going on? Oh, and big up to the folks. Hold on. We got it here. Oh, it's D. I haven't shouted you out in a minute, and there's no particular reason for that, D. You know how much I love you. So shout out to my girl, D. Northern Witch in the building. Quakers in the building. Taja's in the building. Afraid Knots in the building. Wendy come through. Spin Cycle Dragon. With it. I wanted to shout out also Miss J. Free. Miss J. Free, you have commented and sent super thanks in the past, and I have not properly acknowledged you. So thank you to Miss J. Free. Big up to 40 J Blaze. Big up to my girl Tina Lou. Shout out to Afra. I don't think Afra's in here right now, but that's cool. Afra will be in here a little later. Shout out to Lady Alex Vesper. So glad to see y'all. So yeah, cops ain't shit. What? Where shall we begin? Well, actually, this is a Stoner Loner story. And I should probably tell you guys, and I don't think Damien would mind. And Damien, I do not mind you sending me stories. Damien sends me a good volume of stories to choose from coming from the UK. And Damien sent me this one. And this is a story that we somewhat talked about, but there has been a slight development and a twist. So we're going to start with cops saying shit across the pond, which we knew. Just like fucking cousins in America. The cops remain ain't shit over there in the UK. Sure, I write this in my British accent. Will, if you could put up that Guardian piece for me, sir. I don't think my British accent is all that good because I transpose Britain and Ireland and Australia. so it comes out as a melange of accents. So let me leave that alone. But check this out. This is a piece that actually came out today and or yesterday. More than 1,500 UK police officers accused of violence against women in, here's the plot twist, 6 months. 6 months' time. 1,500 UK police officers accused of violence against women within a span of 6 months. 6 months. 6 months. The subhead reads staggering figures from the National Police Chiefs Council show that less than 1% of those accused have been sacked. Now, sacked that's English, that's British for fired. See, we cultured over here. We understand different languages and shit. Anyway, let me get into this. So more than 1,500 police officers have been accused of violent offenses against women and girls over a period of just 6 months, and less than 1% have been sacked, according to new figures. Overall, 1,483 unique allegations were reported against 1,539 officers, okay? Or 0.7% of the workforce, period. Now, let me say this real quick about The Guardian, for them to even say that, because I hear different takes about the quality of The Guardian reporting. And to their credit, The Guardian's credit, in the U.S., The Guardian was one of the mainstream publications that began to track police murders here in the US. And I appreciate them doing that. They stopped doing that, by the way. I guess they couldn't count that high. But for them to put that little caveat in this sentence, okay, that over overall, 1,483 allegations were reported against 1,539 officers, or 0.7% of the workforce. I understand that's how it may statistically break down, which, by the way, this is just data collected over a period of 6 months. I'm sure if you extrapolated the collection of that data out over a year, 5 years, 10 years, those numbers would be exponentially higher. But I didn't need the Guardian to do the fucking math for me right there to tell me that's only 0.7%, less than 1% of the workforce. I don't give a goddamn how many percentages of the workforce it is. That is still a highly unreasonable and unfathomable number of officers to be facing allegations, and the specific allegations themselves, over such a short amount of time. So the fact less than 1%, I don't give a goddamn. That's still a lot of assault going on out there. I continue. There were 1,177 cases of alleged police perpetrated violence, including sexual harassment and sexual assault, reported between October 2021 and April 2022, according to the data from the National Police Chiefs Council, the NPCC. And let me stop again right there, because, again, I don't trust no data that's collected by the cops about the cops. You know what I'm saying? They probably said, "Hey, Johnson." Oh, let me get my British accent. Hey, Roger. Okay, I see those numbers. The numbers are just atrocious, just astronomical. Let's do some subtraction there. Let's take away a couple thousand of those. See, I'm good. I'm getting Australian again. Okay, let me stop. let me continue. We don't trust information gathered by the police about the fucking police, because that means that those numbers are deeply skewed in the wrong direction to make the police look as good as possible. So imagine those are the numbers that they cop to. Imagine the shit that they swept under the rug or didn't even bother to count at all. Back to the piece. Just over half of the cases, 653, which is 55%, were conduct matters, which are usually raised by colleagues within the force. Interesting. The remaining cases, 524, or about 45%, were complaints from the public. And then the Guardian gets into some interesting stuff a little bit down here. They try to drown you with numbers and fractions, which is okay, I guess. But hold on. Almost 2/3 of the complaints from the public were about the use of force, for example, handcuffing and arrest, while 9% concerned harassing behavior, 6%, hold on, yeah, 6% related to assault, and 5% was pertaining to abuse of position for a sexual purpose. But the lack of discipline for these officers, which I think is really interesting, and the ways in which the police forces take complaints from the public, or the lack of seriousness, I should say, is also very telling. It says for the conduct allegations, 48% of the conduct allegations, which again were allegations made from a colleague against another officer, 48% of those concerned discreditable conduct carried outside working hours, while 19% related to sexual assault, 13% related to sexual harassment, and 6% related to abuse of position for sexual purpose. So, what does that even tell us? So, even within the ranks of the United Kingdom police forces, according to the National Police Chiefs, whatever the fuck, half of the cases concerning colleagues making harassment allegations against other colleagues, a high number of these have to do with sexual harassment, sexual abuse, and abuse of position. So British police obviously don't give a fuck about the bitches they work with, and they damn sure don't give about the bitches in public. Check this out. So just under half of the complaints and nearly 3/4 of the conduct cases, many of them still had not been finalized when the data was collected, but where cases had been closed, 70% of the conduct cases, which is about 136, and 91% of the complaint cases, which again come from the public, 290, were thrown out. So they threw out 91% of the public complaint cases and threw out about 70% of the colleague on colleague complaint cases. So, out of all of these officers so far who have been accused of some sort of violence against women within a 6-month period, only 13 had actually been where is it? Where is it? Let me make sure I'm saying this right. It said just 13 of the officers and staff who were sacked for misconduct. That's it, just 13. And nobody was fired as a result of public complaints. So they did fire 13 officers and staff as a result of conduct complaints, colleague on colleague complaints. But for people from the public making public complaints against police officers, not a single one was fired. Not a one. Not a one. Not now a one. Now, let's be clear here. I mean, none of this is, let me not say, okay, it is shocking. It should not be shocking. Because again, let me just speak for myself here. You know, I do believe cops ain't shit. I do stand firm on that. But the ways and we have been so heavily socially conditioned to default give police the benefit of the doubt and be like, wait a minute, how could it be that many? How could it be that many? It of course it's probably more. Don't fret about how many they reported. Fret about the many that they didn't report and how they telling us to our face. They are not concerned about your public complaints about harassment, mistreatment, misconduct, bitches. Because this is what this report is about. That over 1,500 officers within a 6-month period had allegations of violence against women. And the fact that all of the public complaints, not now officer has yet been fired, tells me that you bitches be lying. Let me stop. Let me stop because I'm bitches and I don't be lying. Not when it comes about shit like this. Oh, I don't be, well, yeah, anyway, that's a whole nother story. But no, about that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Thank you so much, Damien, for sending me this wonderful piece of rage. When I read this, I got immediately angry. But this is no different than how police deal with women. I'm imagining it everywhere, but let's stick with the Western imperialist powers here. Let me stick within the belly of the beast of which I currently reside. In the United States, the police officers, law enforcement officers, correctional officers, these people are amongst the professions that usually rank the highest for rates of domestic violence, domestic battery, domestic abuse. These are the people who be beating up their spouses, their partners. Usually in these hetero dynamic, relationships, a man-woman relationship, the man law enforcement officer is more likely to be domestically violent with their partner. They are more likely to commit acts of sexual assault and sexual harassment whilst on and off the job. This denotes a larger problem with policing than any of these elected officials or police chief or these national councils of police. These people do not want to acknowledge these systemic issues of misogyny, misogynoir, more specifically, transphobia, homophobia, and outright systemic racism. I'd be curious how these numbers, these harassment and violence against women numbers from the UK, I wonder how this breaks down via race. I don't think the Guardian got to that part. Or maybe the National Police Chiefs, that wasn't data that they were actually collecting. I don't see it in here. But that's amazing because again, what is the story for policing? Oh, well, police keep the community safe. Women can call on police to remove their abusive partner if need be. Well, what if you are with the police and the police is your abusive partner? Then what? Oh, well, I guess you have to go into the law enforcement ranks yourself and become a law enforcement officer because that's the only way the agencies in the UK are going to believe you. Because if you're a member of the public making a public complaint about a police officer harassing you, assaulting you, trying to use their position to leverage some sort of, sexual favor out of you. Oh, well, ain't shit gonna happen to them. They will not be sacked. They will not be sacked. Every time I hear sacked, I see NFL. I can't sacked and fired. Don't that's not even the synonym that I would use. Maybe the Brits should be considered. Say, y'all, maybe come up with a different word. It doesn't sound as well, I don't know what sack sounds like. Anyway, let me shut up. So that's my first cop say shit story. I got more. Y'all stand by because it's gonna be a long night. Because again, I'm sure there was other shit going on. I'm sure there was other shit going on in the world. I do have a little bit of loose interest in the collapse of the Silicon Valley Bank and the other bank that collapsed. I do have a loose interest in that simply because I said, oh, said, wait a minute. Where have I seen this movie before? Oh, that's right. I saw it in 2008. This movie came out many years ago. I remember this movie when all the banks collapsed and then all the banks got qualitative easing, billions and trillions pumped back into them while black people in Prince George's County lost their homes. Right. I said, I've seen this movie before. Look at that. They just waited for a Democrat to get back in the office. I don't, you know what? I don't even fucking care. I ain't talking about that shit tonight. I'm not talking about that shit tonight. I am going to talk about, however, one of the things one of the cops ain't shit stories that I had to bring you guys comes from my hometown, not where I currently live, the town in which I was raised, Laurel, Maryland. Guys, if you are not from the DC area, let me briefly tell you about Laurel, Maryland. Okay. So Laurel is the geographic center between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. Laurel is made up of 4 different counties: Prince George's County, 3 different counties, I can't count. Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, and Howard County. What else is interesting about Laurel? Ooh. George Wallace got shot in Laurel. You guys remember George Wallace? Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. When George Wallace went for president, some glorious person, a white person, shout out to the radical whites. We love the radical whites. A radical white person put a couple bullets in fucking George Wallace. He came talking that dumb shit in Laurel. I loved it. Well, I wasn't born, but when I found out about it, I said, oh shit, look at Laurel being historic and shit. But Laurel was not always a beacon of race traitors doing the right thing, doing the Lord's work. No, Laurel has a not so great reputation for being a bed for hotbed for Klan activity. At a certain point, the crackerism in Laurel still remains. Despite the fact that the demographics of Laurel have changed dramatically over like the past 20 or 30 years. But all that said, Laurel is still the only place that I've been called a nigga multiple times. Multiple times. I was like, how many times have I been called a nigga in Laurel? At least 3, maybe 4. But I still love my hometown. There's no place like Laurel. So perhaps you would be not surprised to discover that Laurel, Maryland found itself in the crosshairs of my Cops Ain't Shit segment. How? Well, I've had my own experiences with Laurel police when I was a younger person, and I won't get into those experiences today. But if this kind of saltine was on the force, I can see how the Laurel police likely still have the reputation that they have. So hold on, let me get into this because I did not do a good job of denoting all of this on my doc here. So, Will, do me a favor. Pull up, what is that? Pull up the article. So this is a press release that came out from the city of Laurel when back in March of 2021. So it's been roughly about 2 years now. The former chief of police of Laurel, Maryland was arrested, and they charged this Bama with 12 counts of attempted murder. You heard me right, people. The former chief of police for Laurel, Maryland was charged with 12 counts of attempted murder. a handful of attempted arson charges, and a bunch of other shit like major felonies. And I said, what in the hell? What was this white man thinking? So, Mr. Crawford, former police chief Crawford, over a period of 9 years between the years 2011 and 2020, basically went on a terror spree of revenge action, specifically revenge arson. So this man had a list in his phone of people whom he had had disagreements with. Okay, some of these people, I believe, were even first responders themselves. And he didn't just confine his reign of terror to merely Laurel, Maryland. No, no. This man actually was alleged, and I will drop the alleged momentarily once I give you guys the update. But he was alleged to have committed suspected arsons in Prince George's County, Montgomery County, Howard County, and Frederick County. Oh, don't forget Charles County too. From the years 2011 to 2020. Now, just think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. Why in the world would I say cops ain't shit? Well, here's another reason why cops clearly ain't shit. You have a multiple arsonist, a person who has a hit list of enemies that he is determined to enact some sort of real life revenge against. And for 9 years, the other police didn't seem to know what Chief Crawford was up to. Isn't that amazing? So, Will, cue up that WBAL piece if you could. So, there has been a resolution to this, and I'm gonna get to that in a second. But I did want to play off package because I'm a package queen around here, and this is going to be from WBAL Channel 11. And I want to big up to the Baltimore area media news outlets who, in my opinion, covered this trial and this entire situation with this would-be serial killer of a cop. If the cop had his way, the cop would have been a serial killer. Let's make no mistake about that. The Baltimore media covered this way better than the Washington, D.C. media. And like I just told y'all at the onset, that Laurel is in the middle of Baltimore and D.C. In fact, growing up, I had the ability to view both DC and Baltimore media stations. Not everybody in this area is able to do that, right? So this was absolutely a DC story. I don't know what the fuck these DC stations was doing or what they wasn't doing, but big up to the Baltimore media because they seem to be on this shit. So let's go to Kata Mara, who is well, she ain't out there now, but she was out there in Ellicott City at the Howard County Courthouse. I've been there several times myself. She's at the Howard County Courthouse because they decided, even though this was a multi-jurisdiction sort of case, they decided to try it in Howard County. I'm not exactly certain why, but let's. Oh fuck, Will, I meant to tell you to yop like the first 30 seconds off this bitch because I don't want to hear her stand up. I just want to get to the package. So if you can you fast forward in like 20 seconds? I'm sorry. I meant to put that on the dock, and that is totally my bad. But if you're not able to, don't fret. Just play when you're able to play. Thank you.
Work ahead of them, asked the judge, and he said, okay, they're going to call it quits for the day. They're going to come back and resume deliberations tomorrow. It's been a very long day. This morning was packed with closing arguments, and after that, about 5 hours of deliberations. The jury asked to consider 12 felony charges against the defendant David Crawford, 8 counts of attempted first-degree murder, 3 counts of arson, and 1 count of malicious burning. The 71-year-old former police chief has been held without bail since his arrest in March 2021. He's charged with arson in 6 different counties, 12 separate fires dating back to 2011. 4 of the fires were in Howard County, and prosecutors are using evidence from all 12 cases to show the jury there's a pattern running through them all that proves he's guilty. You heard testimony from 11 fire victims. Prosecutor Patricia Cecil told the jury in closing arguments, each was the victim of arson. Each of them knew the defendant, and every one of their names appeared on a target list in the defendant's iPhone. All of the fires have commonalities too, she said. The where, when, how, and the why. revenge, she said, for one-sided, petty, trivial grudges and for the thrill of it. The defense argued that the state did not prove David Crawford set these fires, let alone set fires, quote, to burn up 8 people. Defense attorney Robert Bonsib arguing there's no DNA, no fingerprints, no facial identification pointing to Mr. Crawford. And in many cases, Bonsib said, there's no motive, which means there's no pattern. And if there's no pattern, there's no proof. Bonsib characterized the crimes as nuisance fires with very limited damage. The rebuttal that came next was fierce. The prosecutor, Scott Hammond, arguing, I don't care about the extent of the damage to these houses. He said the minute he lit that fire, he committed attempted murder, adding, just because he's bad at murder doesn't mean he gets a pass. Reporting live from Ellicott City, I'm Kate Amara.
Thanks, Kate. They found that nigga guilty as charged, guilty on all charges, guilty, guilty. Former police chief David Crawford, guilty on all counts. And I apologize, I misspoke some of the facts there. I think I said 12 counts of attempted first degree murder. No, they knocked that down to 8 counts of attempted first degree murder. 8, 12, what's the difference? if you tried to kill 8 niggas, you might as well try to kill 12. Wild for the night. Now, gang, again, none of this should be shocking to us. None of this action should be shocking to anybody. I mean, first of all, we see police officers at varying levels of power, of hierarchy, of whatever their titles are. I mean, this guy was the police chief. Shit, the patrolman, the beat cop, the rookie cop, will also do very violent and bad things while on duty. They will do very violent and bad things to the community and, to the people that they engage with in the public. What this man did was just an extension of regular policing, except he was trying actively, specifically, to go after a certain group of people. Now, I'm curious. I don't think that was so well reported, and maybe it was, and perhaps I missed it, but what some of the petty beefs were. I mean, can you guys think of, I can think of a few reasons why I might want to burn somebody's house down, but I assure you, they have crossed a uncrossable line. It's not just because some nigga cut me off in traffic, I'm gonna go follow him home, try to burn his house down. No. What could this man have wanted to set 8, 10, 12 fires about? It doesn't even matter. The fact of the matter is that even though he was charged and he was now convicted of these crimes, 9 long years, he was allowed to do this without anybody stopping him. What if he had killed somebody? He's a police officer. I would imagine, perhaps, maybe I'm giving him too much credit, but he has the savoir-faire or the access to manipulate evidence, to try to do things to slow investigations or steer investigations into particular positions. Like it's just wild to know the kind of power that police wield and the kind of actual real danger and harm that they can do in the community and what it actually takes to stop them if they are ever stopped. If they are ever stopped. I'm not clear as to what tipped off law enforcement, the other police, to what Chief Crawford was doing. But he was going to kill somebody. He was determined to. He was absolutely determined to. Glad to hear that since his arrest back in 2021, he has been denied bail. This man ain't never getting out of jail. But we know, as what happened with Derek Chauvin, the officer convicted of murdering George Floyd, the correctional officers were looking out for Derek Chauvin in jail. They was letting him use their cell phones, giving them contraband, cigarettes, and whatever the fuck. They try to make it particularly as cushy as possible for officers convicted of crimes that earn them trips to the penitentiary. So I'm not even convinced that a jail sentence here is even justice, because even within being a prisoner and being amongst other prisoners, that cop, that pig is still going to get the privilege and the benefits that other prisoners are not going to get. So is it jail really? Is it punishment really if you're still getting special treatment? I don't think so. I don't think so. There is more cops ate shit stories. Hold on here for y'all. Let me give y'all a little pause for the cause here. That was the light work. Of course, if I'm gonna do a cops ate shit story, we got some heavy work coming in. But before I get into the heavy work, please give the video a like and a thumbs up, subscription. If you are inspired, you can become a member. You can sign up to become a patron of the channel. We would support anything. We don't care. The free support is beautiful. The likes on the videos, the comments under videos. What's the other shit y'all could do? Just free and shit. Oh, follow us places on the internet. Damn, I haven't done that in a while. Follow us places on the internet. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Sorry. Twitch. Instagram. Twitch at BIDWKB. Twitter is at Burn It Down KB. And Facebook, just search Burn It Down with Kim Brown. You'll bump into us there somewhere. God, I'm terrible at that. I'm very bad at social media promotion. That's why I do so well at it. Can't you guys tell? I think there's a bug. I think a bug has flown into one of these lights because I'm telling you, anytime I'm in here with the lights all the way on, it smells like toast. And I'm like, no one has laid a piece of bread over none of these lights. So I'm guessing a bug has found itself in there and got itself fried up pretty good. So there's that. All right, hold on. I'm trying to get to these stories. Don't tell me I didn't put any of this shit on the fucking doc. Will. Didn't I? Will, do you have a package in there from News Cleveland? I think it's News 5 Cleveland.
Yeah, I got that.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you so much. Thank you. I was just very distracted today. I don't know what my problem is. So big up to at Soul Brother 215. You know who you are. Soul Brother 215. You know who you are. Soul Brother 215 tagged me on a story, and it was a story I had not heard about. Okay. So the news, I guess maybe less than a week ago, was that 11 East Cleveland police officers were indicted for conduct. Okay. And apparently, this has been a systemic, shocker, ongoing, shocker, issue that has plagued this tiny police department. So much so that I believe that there were either 24 or 26 total East Cleveland police officers. 16 of them total have been indicted. This latest round of indictments comes, I guess, after the first round of indictments. When the is it Cuyahoga? We got any Ohioans in here? I was watching the press conference and I heard it pronounced a couple of different ways, but the Cuyahoga County, which is, the Cleveland area and the suburbs, the prosecutors there have been actually making some intentional strides to clean up the East Cleveland Police Department, which has an abominable reputation in the neighborhood. And as I was watching the press conference, I'm so sorry. I feel like my grandmother. Am I turning into my grandmother? My nose keeps running. I thought I put some tissues in here. I did, but there's also other shit in here. So unfortunately, the tissues. Whatever. Okay, well, not a tissue, but it's something. So let's call it a handkerchief. Let's call it that. So anyway, I meant to pull that clip too. I can't believe that I did. So I did not. So actually, let the package brief us briefly. Let me let the package brief us briefly on what the totality of this latest round of indictments are, and then I'm gonna come back and give you all some more information. So let's check out that package from News 5 in Cleveland. Check it out.
It started with the police chief, then the indictments just kept on coming. And now 16 current and former East Cleveland police officers are facing criminal charges for things they did on the job. And with a dwindling police department, city leaders are now pleading for help to keep their streets safe. News 5 investigator Scott Knoll has been covering the issues in East Cleveland for months now and has our follow-up tonight.
Cuyahoga County's prosecutor acknowledged here today these indictments will likely strain East Cleveland's police department. In all, investigators say it's only about 26 officers. But the prosecutor says based on what he's seen, something had to be done. In video after video, investigators say it's the men behind the badges committing the crimes against the very community they swore to serve and protect.
The sad reality is they needed protection from people driving around in East Cleveland Police Department cars.
Newly indicted today, former East Cleveland police officers Nicholas Fody and Larice Manns, current East Cleveland detective Ian McInnes, Sergeant John Hartman, current officers Trey DeHart Robinson, Brian Parks, and former East Cleveland, now Elyria police officer Tristan Homan. Late today, Elyria police announcing they fired Homan, while 4 other current East Cleveland police officers already under indictment had additional charges added. Prosecutors say today's indictments cover incidents between February 2020 and July 2022. 11 different officers, 11 different victims, 11 different incidents, many caught on camera. Crimes investigators say that range from felonious assault to interfering with civil rights to tampering and theft in office, among others. Prosecutor Michael O'Malley not mincing words about what he watched on the recordings.
I was appalled that we could be witnessing a guy handcuffed and his head stomped, or witnessing a guy handcuffed and being tased while handcuffed repeatedly, which to me is a form of torture.
Today's charges are in addition to a series of indictments against more current and former officers late last year. All of it taking a bite out of the city's police force.
We need it in East Cleveland. We need the sheriff department to come in because it's terrible.
Yet East Cleveland City Council President Juanita Gowdy called today's indictments a miracle, hoping it's a major step towards stopping corruption inside the ranks.
This is a day of hope. It took down a lot of people, but the people know what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to uphold the law, not break the law.
Prosecutors here stress this is still an ongoing investigation. As for the 11 men indicted, prosecutors say they'll all be given the opportunity to surrender. Reporting downtown, I'm News 5 investigator Scott Knoll.
Yes, thank you all so much. Big thumbs up and big fire emoji energy for that. 16 East Cleveland police officers criminally indicted. And when prosecutor, what's his name? O'Malley, Mr. Miller? I don't remember his name. But anyway, I watched that whole press conference today. At least it was about 45 minutes long, and I think I watched maybe about a half hour of it. And I watched some of those video clips that the prosecutors are using as evidence to indict these officers with, again, felonious assault. They're accused of thieving, stealing from citizens, excessive force, conduct unbecoming, dereliction of duty, like a number of charges that seemed, reasonable and valid or whatever. So I watched some of the videos that they showed at the press conference. Let me say this also real quick. It was a very ableist press conference. There was no American Sign Language interpreter. And for a lot of the videos, they could have easily been better captioned and they could have used some descriptions for the visually impaired, and they could have been captioned for the deaf and the hard of hearing in Cleveland because we know that police officers are more likely to kill disabled people, mentally and physically disabled people. So, kind of shame on the Cuyahoga County prosecutors there for not making their press conference about this public safety danger that is the East Cleveland Police Department, for not making that press conference accessible to all. A special fuck you to them. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. So anyway, I was watching the press conference, and the prosecutor that we just saw there in that clip said something that I thought was interesting. And this was in response to his very, very first question. And I meant to pull the clip, but I didn't pull the fucking clip. So you guys are just going to have to rely on my description, but it's going to be a great description. So anyway, the prosecutor was asked, the first question was, Nah, I can't remember the phrase. No, he was asked something along the lines of, is this overwhelming for the amount of officers that have been indicted in one shot here with 11? And the prosecutor responded, yes, it was overwhelming. Yes, it was a very large number. And then he goes on to talk about number one, how there's only 4 remaining East Cleveland police officers in the entire department. Everybody else is under indictment, or they've been fired, or they are in trouble, right? So over 90% of the police force in East Cleveland is in fucking trouble. Is in trouble. And this man, this prosecutor, had the audacity to stand up and say, you know, he talked about how the police officers were the main danger on the streets of East Cleveland. And I wanted him to say that twice, okay? Because while this whole clamor around rising violent crime, and we don't have enough officers on the street, and we need to increase not only police funding but police training so police can be good agents out there dealing with the public. The concept of even starting something different, it I will say it doesn't occur to them, but it's not being picked out of the suggestion box, right? Just imagine what the salaries are of 11 police officers, 16 police officers, even in a place like East Cleveland, Ohio, which I imagine is probably very small and black, even though most of those cops, not all, but most of them look pretty white. They look pretty white. Funny how that works. But one of the other things that the prosecutor said in the press conference, he said, it's going to be hard to attract good quality professional police candidates to East Cleveland not because of the reputation that the department has, no, because of the low pay that the department offered. And again, you bundle up those 16 officers' annual salaries, their overtime, their training, their benefits, you're probably talking something close in the millions, okay? Or very, very close to. What would happen if instead of rehiring 11 to 16 new police officers to train them up in the same ways of the dickheads that just got indicted, basically training them in the same ways, how about we repurpose that money into a different form of public safety, right? Not police as we know it. And and again, that was the one thing that kind of went unsaid or didn't get said strongly enough at the presser that I saw. It wasn't quote unquote criminals making the streets of East Cleveland more dangerous for regular, quote unquote, regular working people trying to go to the store or do whatever. It was the actual cops. The cops were the criminals. The cops were the ones making the streets in East Cleveland less safe. But those are the ones who were the benefits of taxpayer dollars and likely a police officer's bill of rights, and all kinds of shit. So there's that coming out of East Cleveland with those 11 police officers indicted. But it really put me, when I saw that story, and I appreciate your soul, brother, 215 for tagging me on that, because when I saw that story, the first thing that really popped into my head was last week, Attorney General Merrick Garland made the announcement pertaining to the Louisville Police Department and all of the systemic issues around racism and aggressive policing, especially pertaining to no-knock warrants, like the one that was the pretext for Breonna Taylor to be shot and killed in her home. I mean, I just stood there, sat there listening to Merrick Garland, and as I've watched officials from the Department of Justice stand up there time and time again for a very long time now, and this year it's Louisville. Last year and years past, it's been Baltimore, it's been the Miami police, it's been the NYPD, it's been the Los Angeles Police Department, it's been the Chicago police, it's been the St. Louis Police Department. Like, I mean, if you started to throw darts at every spot on the map in the continental United States where the police have been under federal investigation for intentionally violating people's civil and constitutional rights, the whole map will be filled with darts. The whole map. And it's time for the media. Well, fuck the media. We don't have expectations of the media, but let me be the media in this case. Like, I am not here to play in your face. I'm not here to say that, we need to work with police. We need to listen to what the police have to say about how we can make the community safer. No, the community will be safer when the police get the fuck out. That's it. That's the tweet. Send that bitch. Post it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to give money, public money, give it to the schools, give it to mental health crises counselors. The police have already shown that they are undeserving of the public trust. And I don't even like to say and use the framing, and I frown greatly upon the media framing about reclaim the public trust. Oh, the police have to re-earn the public trust. You have to tell me, when did they ever fucking have it? When did they ever have it? When did they ever have public trust in East Cleveland? When have they ever had public trust in the police in West Baltimore? When have they ever had public trust in the police in Southeast DC? The answer is never. The answer is fucking never. And we will not live in fantasy land with these people. We will not pretend as though this country or the institution of policing used to be something better than what it currently is. Oh, remember when the police what? Remember when the police what? Remember when the police didn't care about whether or not anybody recorded them? Remember when the police could move with such impunity because not everybody had a phone attached to their fucking hand? Yeah, remember them days? Yeah, let's talk about that public trust. The Maryland State Troopers, also another agency that was under federal indictment over a couple of different times, mind you, because Maryland State Police, notorious for stopping black drivers up and down I-95, harassing black drivers, searching unreasonably and illegally black drivers and their passengers and their vehicles. Like, come on. We're not playing this fantasy land game. We're not playing Make America Great Again, nigga. we're not playing that bullshit. Because when was America great? Everybody? Never. The answer is never. Never has it been great. Not a single day, not a year, not a decade, not a generation, not a century, not a single one. Not so long as people of color, black people in this country, gay people in this country, trans people in this country still remain under attack by the state, the white supremacists, colonialists, all them niggas, the state, the state. So miss me with all that patriotism. And listen, I appreciate even indictments coming. Like, here's the problem though. A lot of people would point to what just happened in East Cleveland with the prosecutors there indicting all those cops and say, hey, that's progress. That's police accountability. That's what you want to happen, right? You want to get rid of the few bad apples. The problem is, who's going to train these new cops? Derek Chauvin was a field training officer. Kim Potter, the cop who didn't know her fucking pistol from her goddamn taser, who shot Dante Wright, also a field training officer. Like, look at who you put in charge to train up the new cops. You train them in the ways of the old Klansmen. So are we as the public supposed to feel any reassurance when they hire new police? I wouldn't. if I lived in East Cleveland, I wouldn't. I would be out there. Well, I would support the people who would be out there, who would be out at the police department saying, no, redistribute them salaries and them benefits and all of that shit. Whatever the standard career duration for an East Cleveland police officer, if they stay on the force 20 years, we need 20 years of that salary, them benefits, that training, that overtime, and we need it to be redistributed in the community to the people that most need it. And I assure you, it's not the fucking cops. And I assure you, if crime, quote unquote crime, if crime is a concern in East Cleveland, well, maybe you need to redistribute these police officers' salaries and benefits to the places where the crime was happening. Well, the crime was the fucking cops being criminals and doing criminal behavior. But take it to the neighborhoods that were the most heavily over policed and redistribute that money right then and there. Watch what happens. Good things is going to happen. Let me let me clean that up. Let me clean that. I'm sorry. So okay. The Reformation is impossible. So what? And if you guys get a chance, please. And I should have wrote the brothers' names down, and I didn't because I'm trifling. But this morning on Black Power Media, Kalanji Changa had on some brothers from Paterson, New Jersey, who were discussing a case of police violence and police murder pertaining to a young person who was experiencing a mental health crisis there. And the man was dropping some gems. I think his name was Bilal. Or is what was the other brother's name, y'all? Because I know y'all was there. Everybody, everybody over at BIDWKB is also a BPM All Star as well. Well, but it was an amazing conversation, and the abolition playbook, I guess, was better being articulated to us this morning. And that's what I'm saying. Like, abolition can't it is the really the only solution. Like, all of the conduct that these East Cleveland police officers were indicted for, how were prosecutors even able to get it? Well, because they had body cams, right? But the body cams clearly did not prevent the police from being a destructive and harmful force in the community. It just was able to document it. And if you don't have a prosecutor or even other police officers or the FBI, whatever, if you don't have willing parties that actually want to prosecute criminal police, then the police are just going to keep being criminals on tape. They're going to keep doing the same shit they've always been doing on tape. And it's always so hilarious to me to see the kind of body cam footage that police will tell on themselves, but clearly they are comfortable doing so, leaving their body cams rolling while they themselves are doing illegal activities and talking all kinds of crazy shit, because overall there is no consequence for it. There is no penalty for it. If there was a percentage could be put on the amount of police officers who were actually charged criminally with anything versus the amount of police who were doing criminal behavior, I'm sure it would be an infinitesimal percentage, right? It would be so small. And for the East Cleveland situation, I think they said there was 11 or 12 victims, documented victims, and they started doing this following these particular officers trying to build a case against them from 2020 to 2022. And I'm like, but what about all the people that they was fucking up before 2020? Does that not even count? Oh, and by the way, gang, real quick, the Cleveland area FBI wants to hear from you. They gave out a phone number during their press conference and said, if you have had contact with any of these officers, or you have been harassed or assaulted or violated in any way by any member of the East Cleveland Police Department, call the FBI at 216 da 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 da. And I thought about it for a second. I said, should I write this number down and give this out to my audience? And I said, no, I am not going to write the number down, and I'm not going to give it out to my audience, because I am not going to invite my fire fam to be surveilled by the FBI. Yeah, you think the FBI is, even though they have allegedly assisted in this investigation, I'm sorry, the cops do not like when other cops get told on, period, point blank. They don't like that. they don't like it. And I think anybody who would call up that FBI hotline number would be setting themselves up for some sort of surveillance eventually. So no, don't call. Do not call the FBI, or call at your own risk, or call from somebody's phone. Call from your work phone. Oh, no, don't call from your work phone. I don't know how you could even get your hands on a phone of somebody that you did not like, but I'm trying to think of, whose number you could call from. But anyway, you'd probably have to give out way too much personal information to the FBI. Don't call them niggas anyway, period, point blank. Okay, they got a lot of them cops. We'll start from there. But the pressure needs to be put on Cuyahoga County and the community of East Cleveland, because what was also mentioned at that press conference is basically the concern from the prosecutors, not necessarily the concern from the community. The concern from the prosecutors about the lack of cops on the street. And I guess they're going to have to bring in the Ohio State Troopers and somebody they named another agency. I said, that doesn't sound like what the community of East Cleveland needs at all. Like, they just got rid of a criminal gang. Like, they just got rid of their biggest criminal element, which is, of course, was the police. What makes you think that the Ohio State Troopers are any different and behave or conduct themselves any differently than the East Cleveland police do? Huh? They don't need no more goddamn police. Watch the crime rates drop now that 90% of the East Cleveland Police Department has been indicted. Indicted, indicted, indicted. Anyway, all right, guys, that's my show. I'm done here. I'm sorry. It kind of is what it is tonight. But before I sign off, I want to show y'all something. Hold on. Now, this is my once a year wearing of my hockey jersey. Okay. This is not just any hockey jersey though, gang. Okay. This is when the Washington Capitals became the Stanley Cup champions. Now, again, it's not just enough that the Caps became the Stanley Cup champs, okay? They became the Stanley Cup champs. I'm about to turn around and don't judge me because I still have twists in the back of my hair. So do not judge me. But they became Stanley Cup champions thanks to this guy. What does that say? That says Smith Pelly, as in Devontae Smith Pelly. Now, gang, there are black hockey players, not a lot, but there's a few. And the Washington Capitals has been one of those organizations that has usually kept a black hockey player in the rotation there somewhere. Shout out to Joe Ward. Shout out to Donald Brashear. Shout out to all them ends. But Devontae Smith Pelly to this day still remains the only black player, Afro-Canadian, the only black player in the history of the NHL to be part of a Stanley Cup team. So when they have the Stanley Cup, whatever the fuck, the Devontae name is on the Stanley Cup, which to me is a huge, huge deal. So even though DSP recently retired from professional hockey this year, and he had a time of it. Of course, I mean, I could see the racism all day, but I'm glad Devontae got an opportunity to be a champ, to be at the pinnacle of his profession, of which I'm certain he endured a lot of bullshit of being a black person playing hockey, even in Canada. So shout out to Scarborough, Ontario's own Devontae Smith Pelly. Look at Smith Pelly. Smith Pelly. Don't look at my untwisted twist. As I show them to you. But yeah, so anyway, I wear my hockey jersey once a year. This is the time of the year. It's hockey season still. And shout out to Devontae Smith Pelly and the 2018 Stanley Cup champions, the Washington Capitals. And they're not doing that great this year. But anyway, guys, that's the show. Join us tomorrow morning on the Remix Morning Show. Black Power Media, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I'm not doing Status Coup tomorrow. They are going to be broadcasting from East Palestine with Louis DeAngelis. Louis is actually, I say actually, no, Louis has been doing a great job. Actually sounds condescending, and that's not how I intended that to sound. Louis has been doing a really good job talking to people, really getting into the faces of some of the elected officials and asking some really, really great questions. So if you're interested in what's happening in East Palestine still with the aftermath of the train derailment and subsequent vinyl chloride mushroom cloud explosion, whatever the fuck crazy shit happened out there. Fuck you, Norfolk Southern. Tune into Status Coup tomorrow, 5 p.m. Jordan and Lewis are going to have the latest updates coming out of there, okay? And that's our time, everybody. Thank you all so much on behalf of Will and Molly. We will see y'all back here on Friday. COVID is still out here jumping on people. I don't want it to jump on you. Don't be afraid to mask and doors people to kiss your ass. Okay, see y'all later. So long. Bye-bye. See y'all. Bye.